Welcome back, everyone. We are invited to a farmer's market or craft sale, whatever you want to call it, on an event that is going to happen in just a few weeks from now. And to be honest, I'm kind of running out of time, and I still have to produce a bunch of wood items such as cutting boards. So I kind of challenged myself: how many cutting boards can I make in just a few hours? So this whole project here is a multi-day project because I was only working at evenings for only a few hours at every day. So I think all those cutting boards that you're going to see in this video I made in within, I think, not more than 6 hours. So first cutting board here. It's a well, it's actually two cutting boards that are made out of one leftover board of mahogany, and it's a shaped one. It's not a straight one because yeah, I as you saw earlier in this video, I used a template because I made those that type of cutting board already before, and I kept the template because my wife, she really likes that shape. And I think for all of those cutting boards that I made in this for this video, this is pretty much the easiest one because I did not need to do any glue up. I just grabbed the leftover board, cut it out, cut the shape for those cutting boards out of my little bandsaw, and give it a little bit of sanding on that stationary little sanding machine that I have, and that's pretty much it. So here we see then the next board, and I think it's actually also the next day. I think the first board I made, or the first two boards, the shape boards, I made on a Monday, and this is actually the next Tuesday after that. And as I mentioned, I only had a few, maybe 1 or 2 hours at each day to work on this. So this is actually the next day and the next board. I think this board is made out of white oak, some leftovers from white oak that I had, that I found somewhere. I just trimmed it down on my table saw, and I'm going to mix it with sapele wood. Some would call this African mahogany. Anyway, it's always a good mix, those white oak and sapele species. I made several boards with those species in the past, and I always like how the colors kind of fit together. And here I'm already ready for the glue up. And as you can see, I always use those for cutting boards. I always use those Bessie clamps. I think they're called uni clamp or cabinet clamps. And the benefit from those clamps is they always clamp straight. It's very helpful if you make furniture, but it turned out that it's also very helpful for cutting boards. And for cutting boards, I prefer especially those clamps because if you do the glue up right, you don't it or it won't result in a lot of extra work afterwards. When you do the glue up correctly, and you pay a little bit more attention on the glue up, then the after removing those clamps, so when you push it through the planer a few times, the boards are always, or most of the time, almost 100% straight. You do not do a lot of extra work. You do not need to make, or if you have one, you do not need to use one of those fancy jigs that for the routers that a lot of people have who make cutting boards to make the boards flat. If you do the glue up right, it's almost, or most of the time, you don't need to do that. So here while the board before is, or the glue up is drying out overnight, I'm already working, or I started to work on the next board. And here I got a bigger block of maple that I had in my shop, and I think here I mix it together, if I remember correctly, with walnut, which is, as most of you know, always a good blend. Those dark brown look and the almost white look of maple. And the walnut here is again just a few little pieces of walnut that I had as leftovers from other projects here, and I just trimmed them down on my table saw, and then I glue it together with maple. One thing I want to mention here is if you do, especially when you use, or if you want to cut little strips of wood on your table saw, you want to make sure that you use the right blade. And I think I mentioned this before in other videos. You always want to use the right blade for the right purpose, of course, but especially when or something that, just from my experience, when you cut little strips of wood, it you definitely want to use your ripping blade for this. It makes your life a lot easier. So here we are again ready for the glue up, but this time I do the glue up a little bit different. I just, yeah, separate those different species before the glue up. I separate the maple from the walnut because the size of the little strips are different, and I clamp them together. Each species, like the walnut and the maple strips, I clamp together, and then I apply the wood, and then I use just a little wood piece, and I use it kind of as a spatula, I would say, to spread the glue, and it works pretty good. It works so much easier than what I did on the first board, where the first cutting board, where I applied the glue separately on each little strip, and here I kind of gang the wood strips together, apply the glue, and spread it with a little wood spatula, and it was so much easier. And while the second or the third board, I would say, oh, how many do I have now? I don't remember. It's drying overnight, and then I started already on the next board. And here, this is, I think, is it white oak? No, I think it's red oak. And this board I do not mix with another species. I just cut, not in half, but I cut those that bigger rough cardboard into two smaller pieces, which I gonna glue together later. And because this board was so rough, I also bring it over to my jointer, and to make a very or a good flat side, and also a very straight side, so that to make my life as easy as possible when it comes to the glue up again. And here I made a little mistake. You you might already know what I'm talking about, but you will definitely see this later in this video, what my mistake was. I don't want to say too much here. You will see this later. I always peek under the clamp to make sure it's sitting the boards are sitting flat on the clamp, so that I do not need to do a lot of extra work later. I usually, once I'm finished with the glue up, I remove the ooze out very quick. Other would say, oh, you should wait for 20 minutes or so, then it's even easier to remove the glue. Or some would even say, okay, wait till the gluing process is completely done, and then you can remove the ooze out from, or the glue that's oozing out. I just do it immediately. I think there's nothing wrong with it. So here we are. I think on the last day of this project, all the glue ups are ready. All those cutting boards that I have prepared, and I only need to finish them. So here I push all those boards through the planer, and as I mentioned before, if you do the glue up right, you do not need a lot of extra work later. And so that was the case for me. I did not need to make up a little flattening jig for my router also. The boards are almost 100% flat, and I think that's more than good enough. So this little oak board, it will be another shaped one, and here you can see what kind of shape it will be. I used the template that I had, and it was a little bit, or the I for my bigger bandsaw that I have, I have only one blade for that bandsaw here at the moment, and that blade is a little bit too big to cut out this shape. And on the other hand, on my smaller bandsaw, I have several blades that would easily do the trick of cutting out the shape, but the board is just too big for the bandsaw, so I cannot move it around properly. So what I did here, I pulled out the my jigsaw, and it did the trick pretty good. Can't complain. And again, here you see the 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 benefits from my workbench, and I showed in another video why I really love this workbench, and it's pretty much because of the clamping possibilities that it gives to me. Yeah, a little bit of sanding, you definitely want to do that, because I I never saw a jigsaw that it's cutting so good that you do not need to sand it. So you always want to sand a little bit later. Then I trim the other boards that I made. I trim them down to the right dimension. And I want to say this year I did not plan for certain dimensions for those cutting boards. I pretty much took whatever, or the dimension, let's say this way, the dimension were defined by the length of the leftovers I had. So the lengths of the leftover, that kind of defined the totally or the overall dimensions of those boards. So I kind of I I round all those edges of all those boards with a little quarter round bit here, and I do this pretty much for every board that I make. I really like this little handheld router. I think it's from Rigid here. And when it comes to handheld machines like routers, also I prefer corded ones. I think there's nothing wrong with battery powered handheld routers, but I prefer those corded ones, because you never run out of power, and they always have the same amount of power, which means they always have the same speed. And what I noticed on other tools, to be honest, I do not know if that's the case for handheld routers, but for other machines, such as drills, of course, but also I noticed this on my little circular saw that is battery powered. When the battery starts dying out, then the speed of of the tool, like the blade or the router bit, slows down, and I don't like this, especially on a tool like a router. I prefer always have the same speed, same rotation, because then it kind of prevents everything from especially when you do when you work with a router, you don't get a lot of tear out or so, or chip out, because those chip outs, they usually happen when a tool is not spinning fast enough. This is the same reason why when you have kickback on certain tools, it usually or very often it happens when a blade or a bit is not spinning fast enough. So this is why I prefer corded tools or corded routers instead of battery powered ones. So we are almost ready. Here I just clean off, or I blow off all that dust that's left on those boards. I gave everything a light sanding, not too much. And what you might have noticed already, that none of the boards that I make here in these videos have what are they called? Juice screws, I think they're called. And they also do not have those buttons on the back. What it is? It would you say legs? I don't know. And the reason why I didn't do that is to to keep the price as low as possible for those boards, because to be honest, I live in an area where lots of people, or most people, do not really want to spend money. That's yeah. I don't want to say too much about that issue, but yeah, it's people are not very open to spend money. It's not that they don't have money; they're just a little bit, yeah, a little bit different. So, and every extra step that you have to add in the process of building something is pretty much money, right? So every if something needs longer to build, then it's and you have to make it cheaper, then it's the money that you lose, right? So I did not include those steps. I did not include those extra features in those sports to make a reasonable price for it, so that everyone is happy at the end, me and the customer as well. But it's totally up to you. If you want to add those extra steps and making juice grooves, it's yeah, nothing wrong with it. And here is what I mentioned before, what I said before about the mistake that I did on that red oak board. Before I glued it together, I flipped the board, or flipped one side of the boards over, and so it makes the board look like in different colors now. So that was definitely a mistake from me. But overall, I'm not unhappy with the result. But what do you think? If you like that video, as always, please give me a thumbs up, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.